Hi, Michelle. Thanks so much for coming on, friend.
Hi, thanks for having me.
There is a lot I want to talk to you about, and I'm so excited.
Great.
Um,
Excellent.
and let's see. I'd love to just say a little bit about this question I always ask people about the life story because it's kind of it's like a strong intro. I'm like, tell me your life story, please. And people are like, okay. And for me, I don't know, you're an amazing person, and every person I get to talk to is an amazing person. Um, to me these days, it really seems like we're all God's children and just like, wow, this is my brother or sister. And like, wow, they're incredible. And I really want this time that we have together to be a chance to get to know you better and understand you and see where you're coming from. Like, it's been so lovely to develop a friendship over the last year or so. And this is like, we get to go way deep into Michelle's world.
Yay.
And the life story is part of that. And just understanding how someone sees themselves and what they've been through and the ups and the downs and um, understanding them on their own terms. We have stories about other people and projections and assumptions, and I think people deserve a chance to say, here's how I see myself. And so with that all in context, I'd love to hear from you. Anything you'd like to share about your life story, what's happened to you so far. It can be in any form that you like, short, long, spoken, sung, whatever. It's all good. I'd love to hear it.
Thanks. Yeah, it is a big question, huh?
Hmm.
Um, because I have so many stories. I could probably write 10 memoirs, just like keep doing little vignettes of different parts of my life. But I guess important stuff is I'm the youngest of four. That tells you a lot about me. I'm about most youngest people. Um, and I feel like my childhood ended very early in a lot of different ways, partially because my siblings all just grew up and wanted to be older kids and didn't want to play with me anymore. And so there was no little kids around except like a neighbor for me to play with or my cousins when they came over. But I did a lot of hanging out by myself and people watching and paying attention, paying very close attention to what adults were doing and saying. And in particular, I noticed really young that they think kids are stupid. And you're not. And I think about this all the time with my daughter now. Like, oh no. Because when I was little, I wrote in a diary, the adults think I'm dumb and I will exploit this. I didn't know the word exploit, but I basically decided very young that I would uh just play them like an instrument if I could, because for example, I noticed that if you tell an adult, like a family friend, your favorite color, they will then on your birthday they will give you things in that color. Or this is my favorite cartoon character. I watched all my siblings getting. My sister Donna loved penguins, and my other sister loved um, the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes. So everything was Taz, and I just one day I said I love Tweety Bird and the color yellow, and then watched everyone give me Tweety Bird stuff for years. And I would just receive the gift and giggle to myself because I didn't give a shit about Tweety Bird, but I thought it was really funny that you could make people do stuff. So I became, it sounds like sociopathic or manipulative, but it was like the way I coped with people talking about me as if I wasn't standing right there. And I just didn't get it. And I didn't have another, well, my sister that's closest to me in age is only 18 months older, but she really took after our mom and she really wanted to act like an adult way sooner. And so it feels like we're farther apart than that. So I really didn't have like my buddy that I could hang out with. And so I became my buddy. And also we were not well off, tiny little house with six people in it. There's four kids, two adults. And we were right on the edge of this very wealthy town in New Jersey. So pretty much everyone I went to school with was rich. And I'm not talking like just a little well off. I'm talking maids and butlers and giant houses. And and I'm over here like I share a room with two other girls. All my clothes are hand-me-downs. I'm constantly hearing we don't have money for that. There's not enough money. There's not enough money my whole life. And I think that had a really huge effect on me because I didn't succumb to the story of it. I thought it was bullshit. And I just got hell-bent to disprove everything that my family was saying. My mom always said, all men suck and they're all the same. Never depend on a man. And I was like, I will find the nicest man in the whole world and you will eat your words. And I did. And not just the one I married, but everyone I dated was someone that she loved and could get on board with, or was like literally jealous of me.
Mhm.
That, I had someone who was like a really sweet guy. I ended up dating a lot of guys that I didn't necessarily vibe with that much because I was just like, this is a good one to bring home to mom. Um, but my husband, she absolutely adored, and she's passed now, which but she got to spend time with him for a few years before she died. And um one time I complained to her about him because he side seat drives in the car, and she hit me. She slapped me on the arm and she goes, don't talk about my Justin. Like, okay, all right. So I managed to, you know, disprove that. I also have started two businesses in my life. I moved out of my parents' house to live in Brooklyn and made my own living. And she was adamant that I could not move to New York City without having saved up not a month, a year's worth of rent. That's what she said. You have to have a year's worth of rent in your savings account before you go to New York City. And I was like, no, I'm leaving in a week. Do you want to come see the apartment I found? I just left, and she gave me her blessing eventually, but she just really wanted me to stay home with her. And I was the last one, so that makes sense. But I've always felt outside of everything. And I feel like a lot of people we know say that. And maybe that's how we're all here together now, is that we all felt like outsiders. But um, yeah, I never really fit anywhere. I feel like I was always having my own little inner world and then trying to do my best to act the way the world accepts you to act. Um, and college was great because I got to go away from everyone else and that I was with. And even though a lot of people from my high school ended up going to the same college as me, but I got to make my own schedule. I got to decide what I want to major in. And I majored in film, which drove my mom nuts because she's like, what are you going to do with that? I was like, I don't know, something fun. And then I became a YouTuber. So like before that was a thing and before it was even something you could think about making money doing. Um, this is how neurotic my mom was about thinking I wasn't going to be able to make it in the world, which as a mom now I completely understand. But at the time I was like, why are you suffocating me? She applied to jobs on my behalf. I had jobs. I had freelance work as a video editor, and I would get rejection letters from companies that I never heard of because she was trying to get me a job. She would buy groceries in New Jersey and drive them to Brooklyn and bring them to me because you're not paying $5 for a bottle of ketchup like that. Um, but at the end, she was extremely proud of me and very much in awe of me. And so I always tell people about that because I hear people get very dismayed by their parents not understanding what they're doing. Even you and I have talked about that. Yeah, and it's like, they do and they don't. And as a mom now, I'm like, yeah, I see how hard that is. I understand that. Like not wanting to let go of control and really wanting to understand, um and not fully understanding that the kid is their own being with their own life and their own journey, and we can't really control that. And I do relate to my daughter that way. This is easier said than done. Obviously, it's going to be hard as life goes on, but I found the ability to let her be who she is. Um, Probably way more so than was done for me as a kid. And we'll see as she gets older and interacts with the world more how I feel about that. But yeah, I've always been a bit of a weirdo and I like it. I relate to weird as a compliment. And I was a video producer for many years. And then when my mom died, that was when she got sick, I started to go, I don't really want to be a famous internet person. I'm very good at creating audiences and I do like performing, but not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I've always wanted to help people. In third grade, I found a diary from third grade where I was writing about how I hope I'm giving good advice, because people would always ask me for advice and I'd be like, wow, I hope I'm doing a good job. So in third grade, I'm like, wow, I wish I knew how to give better advice, or I hope I'm doing people, I'm not like doing anything bad. And, uh, and then I heard about coaching at some point and I was like, oh, you could just spend your life helping other people see themselves better and make great choices that they're happy about. Uh, that sounds great. I want to do that. And then I changed careers and became a coach, and I've been a coach for, at this point, 12 years. So it's it's awesome. It's a great way to spend my time. And yeah, I wasn't even sure what I was going to say when you asked that question, but I feel like I did it.
Mm, it's a lovely answer. Thank you. Mm. I love how aware you are of different dynamics like in your childhood. I think that's really cool. I'm like, ooh, I'm not even sure if yeah, I'm gonna sit with some of that. Let's see. Hmm. I want to ask you about hmm, how you think about two areas of your life and maybe more, but like I have the sense that the way that I'm understanding it from the outside might be different than the way you see it from the inside, and I'm curious about your connection to music and your connection to comedy. And like you said, oh, like I'm good at performing and I also don't want that to be the thing that I do. And I'm curious, like, how do you, what's common between those things and how do you relate to them?
Um, what's common between music and comedy?
That's right.
Uh, they both draw from your truth. There's a book called Truth in Comedy that every improv student has read or knows about. And also the phrase "there's truth in every joke," something that one of my friends said when we were growing up, and it's so true. It's just like you don't make a joke that you don't mean a little bit. And it's the same with music. I think when I first started singing and performing, I was very concerned with getting the note right or sounding just like the person who sang the original song or something like that. And now I understand that it's more about embodying a message and having something to say. In the book A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle, he says that most media is useless, just television and whatever. And yet he says the only useful thing is comedy,
Hmm.
because people, if they can laugh, then they can also see themselves, have more of a sense of humor about themselves. And I read this book so long ago. It was one of my first forays into anything like that, very long time ago. And it did so much for me. It's a very intense book. Have you read it?
A long time ago, yes.
Yeah, a long time. I mean, it's a lot of stuff stuck with me. There's some really key things in there. And but that thing about comedy, I love, that was such good news to me, because at the time I was a comedian. I'm performing in New York City and taking classes and doing all these things. So yeah, you can really say something and you can make commentary in a way that's non-threatening, which is the way people learn best. And then with music, you can evoke emotion and you can help other people process and not feel alone. And that's amazing. That's just amazing to me. So I love expression. It makes sense growing up in a household where I felt overlooked and underappreciated and misunderstood constantly, and like my voice didn't matter. So yeah, it tracks that I would become an adult who makes their voice matter as
Mm.
much as possible and encourages other people to do the same thing. Let's be expressed. Uh, I've come back around to self-expression as my main reason for doing what I do, both my own and other people's, over and over and over through all the exploration I've done over the last 12 years. I can't escape the phrase, though I just heard, and maybe this was Rick Rubin's book. I don't know. It might have been something else. I can't recall right now, but someone said, oh no, it was Stephen Pressfield. He was like, artists don't, um, they're not self-expressing. It's not like they understand something about themselves and then they decide to express it. They express something and that's what has them understand themselves.
Mm.
And I heard that and I just went, wait, you just fucked up my whole frame for self-expression. But you're right, because I've done enough of it that resonates as exactly my experience in practice, but it's not the way I talk about it. So ever since I heard that, and that was maybe 5 months ago, maybe less, uh, I've just been thinking more about I don't need to know what I'm about to say with anything. I just need to say it and then I'll know. And then it might change also. And that's fine. And it just takes all this pressure off of having to know anything, which is also why I love improv comedy because it's very different than stand up, very different animal. Um, the whole point or the way that you do improv well is that you go up and you're willing to not know anything. And coaching's the same. It's not about knowing stuff. It's not about imparting wisdom. You don't give advice when you're coaching. People who give advice and call it coaching are incorrect. That's not what coaching is. But it's consulting, just a different thing. But, and I guess, your question about music and comedy, music is similar. You can practice a performance over and over, but the point of practicing it to perfection isn't so that you get up on stage and do exactly what you did in your rehearsal. The point is to create enough muscle memory that you can be really present with the message that you're trying to deliver, and whatever happens to come out of your mouth in order to convey that message, even if the notes are wrong, whatever that means, it doesn't matter. So like sometimes I've been learning music production the past few years, and sometimes I turn on pitch correction just to see what does it do. It rarely works well for my voice. I would have to isolate it to specific things because I warble so much and I emote and I go off pitch, but I like that. So like I listen to the part that's like technically wrong and I'm like, nah, I don't need a pitch corrector. I don't need auto tune. There's no reason for it unless you're crafting a pop track for the radio, in which case I love a sugary pop track that's absolutely perfect and pristine. There's an art to that. And then there's live performance and it's messy and it's human and you get to watch the person's mouth and their throat and what does it look like when they express, and that's fascinating to me. So I love watching people sing live, especially on video. It was recorded live and I can study them and I can see what's happening with their face and their body, and I can feel if they're actually connected to the music, and I could usually tell if someone wrote the thing themselves or not
Mm.
because it tends to come through when they have. And sometimes I have a question mark where I'm like, I can't tell if you're just bad at emoting or you didn't write this.
Mm.
It's hard to tell. It's pretty indistinguishable. But when someone wrote something and it came from a real experience, you can feel that. You get chills. Your body tells you it's not a thinking thing, it's just a feeling thing.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense, and that's really cool. Uh, when I was a kid, my mom and I had a ritual of, at the end of the day, she would ask me what the best parts of my day and what the worst parts of my day were, and then we would exchange.
I
Um, we
love
called
that.
it.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I loved it as a kid. And in fact, I do a practice these days that is called mindful review. That's very similar to this. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and I've kind of found my own over time. But I really loved it, and it's interesting that has actually become like a kind of contemplative practice that I do as an adult in a way. But I'm reminded of that because in some ways, the life story question is kind of like, how's your day going? But on this life scale,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a reincarnationist, so it's like, how's this day going, as it were? Like, how's this life going for you? And
Yeah.
I bring that up because I'm curious to dive a little deeper into part of your life and like this chapter where you were in New York and you know, we're doing comedy and performing and editing videos and producing stuff and all of that. Like, I'm curious, what were the best parts of that and what were the worst parts of that?
Hmm, great question. Uh, I think I'm gonna start with the worst parts. Uh, was just not having any money. Like the city is, which is, it's easier. I'm just gonna say this, it's way easier for women because I would go to the bar after a comedy show and every single guy in there would offer me a beer. So great. But my friend Fish, who was an aspiring stand-up, and I think he's still doing that, he's like, I want to go out on dates with girls, but I can't afford to take them out anywhere. And so we were always like, I was like, man, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just get stuff given to me all the time. So that part was made it a lot easier. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but that was a good part, was just getting taken care of by people around me. And bad parts, yeah, just the struggle, the needing to live in kind of questionable living spaces with landlords that were maybe cash under the table was a strange thing. And like, is this building actually up to code? And there's no sink in the bathroom, so that's weird. And just general living in New York City stuff that people go through was bad. But but in large part, I think I started there because there's not a lot of bad to talk about. It was a pretty dope time. Of course, except for the almost 2 years that my mom was sick and I had to go back and forth from Brooklyn to Jersey and kind of feel guilty for having a life and not just being in Jersey with her all the time and having to navigate that. But as an entrepreneur, it's not like I could just take a leave from work and whatever. I had to continue hustling to pay rent and build my career at the same time. That was a very it was 1 month shy of 2 full years from the time she got sick until she died. And that was a very challenging time, um, especially because she got sick and then it must have been the same month. I don't know the exact dates of everything. I could probably research my own emails and figure it out, but my friend Grace and I became YouTube partners, which was a brand new thing. The partner program was a new thing where you could make money on YouTube. We became partners right when she got sick. So it was like the height of my internet fame. My mom is dying at the same time, uh, which is it's just weirdly poetic because fame is really not good for me the way that alcohol isn't good for some people.
Mm,
And or heroin, more like
mm,
heroin, honestly. Feels more, I mean, I haven't done heroin, but I have done research on what it does to the brain, and love and heroin activate the exact same parts of the brain.
mm,
So feeling that sense of everyone loves me is a drug. And I think that my mom getting sick at the same time grounded me in this reality and had me start looking at my priorities and what do I really want. And thank God. It was really unhealthy for me. And because she got sick, I didn't move to LA with Grace and I didn't go do all that. And I instead became a coach and needed to learn how to be curious mostly about other people and not take up so much space in conversations with my clients, and very challenging stuff for me, who was always center of attention, but it was good for me. So yeah, back to just that time in New York, even especially the time before my mom got sick. I was just going around being a knucklehead, drinking too much, staying out late, things that would have driven my mom nuts if she knew were happening. I just be like going home late on the subway, or, being too drunk and being like, how did I get home? I'm not sure how I got home. Um, so those times, and dating in New York City, and like it's all, I look back on it all pretty fondly at this point. And going to the comedy scene's different now than it was. I mean, that's probably always true, but there was this really fun time for me of meeting a lot of people in improv classes, going out for drinks, going to shows together, being at like the midnight showing at this one theater. They have to wait on the street for hours beforehand to get in. And you know, just being a kid in New York is super fun.
Hmm. I want to ask more about fame and probably have a few questions about this, but mm, yeah, if it's like a drug for you and you've had these bad periods with it in the past, I'm like, huh, here you are on a podcast and like you've been posting a lot on Twitter and I'm curious like how are you trying to relate to being a public figure at this time, like knowing that fame could be dangerous for you or something like that. Like it seems like you, from the outside, it seems like you are trying to find like a healthy relationship with
Mhm.
these things, and I'm curious about your experience of that.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first got famous online, I wasn't trying to be healthy about it at all.
Mm,
So it was just bender after bender. And when I got into coaching, that really calmed me down and kind of cut me off from all of that. And I was like mad about that at first. And then I realized, oh no, I actually need, after the period of time was over in which I was growing, I was like, oh, I needed that. I needed to just pull back, pull way back. And I remember during that time, I went to LA. I got booked in a commercial with my friend Grace, and they flew me out. And it was all very chaotic, very last minute. Literally, I'm standing in my apartment with a suitcase waiting for a text from someone saying, go to the airport
mm,
or not. And I had to like cab to the airport, take a red eye to LA. They ended up not even using me in the commercial, but they paid me 3 grand and they, flew me out there. So cool. I had to like
mm,
be on a set. Um, but I spent a few days with Grace there and we went shopping and we did different things and people would stop us and a few people knew both of us. Most people just knew Grace and would ask me to take a picture of them.
mm,
It's just a trip. But yeah, like everywhere we went, someone stopped us and there's more to that happened involving like celebrities and different things while we were there and I'm not even going to get into it. But when I got back, I got on the phone with my coach and I started telling her about the experience. And she said, it sounds like you went on a 3 day bender. And I was like, that's what I feel like. I feel like I was just high
mm,
for 3 days. And man, that's a lot. So, yeah, to your point, I have a few friends, my friend Melanie in particular, who's been kind of along for the ride the past 10 years or so. And she and I have been talking because at the start of the year, I went viral like 7 times in 10 days or something like that on Twitter. And I got 400 new followers and all this stuff happened. And of course, it activates all that stuff in me. And it also activates my writing muse. And I start having really good ideas and everything's flowing. So I feel both. I feel both. And I'm like, yeah, I do need this. I just need to learn how to have some boundaries with it so it doesn't swallow me
mm,
and then I lose myself. And I've been talking to her and she's also an intuitive and she's like, you're you're doing exactly what you need to do. It's not going to feel steady and grounded for a while. You're going to be figuring this out for a bit, but you're doing what you need to do right now, which is mostly anytime it starts to feel engulfing, I text her like she's my sponsor. I'm
mm,
like, the thing's happening. And we talk through it and we decide, do I need to take a break? Do I need to, sometimes I just disappear. I haven't much since the start of the year, but ever since I learned that if you delete the app, you lose your drafts, I was like, ah, fuck. Okay,
mm,
I'm not deleting the app. So there's that. Um, but yeah, we're keeping an eye on it. I
mm,
basically have a bunch of spiritual advisors, not just her. There's a few people, and I'm always checking myself. I'm like, is this, yeah, okay. But I don't always feel super sure of myself, and I'm just kind of being with that and thinking, yeah, actually, I think what messed me up a lot in the past was pretending to myself that I know what I'm doing. So now I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know what's healthy. I don't know what's not healthy. I'm just going to keep checking with other people and tuning my own intuition to this because I've always been fascinated by how do you be famous in a healthy way?
mm,
That is just that's one of my questions in life that I study celebrities. I go down rabbit holes about people who do well with it and people who don't do well with it. Oh yeah, we were texting about that one day and I was saying
mhm,
there's certain people who seem to Adele. Adele takes breaks. She just takes long ass breaks. She puts out an album and then she just leaves. And she said once, I just wrote an album about my life. I got to go live life now so I can write another album about my life, but I can't
Mm,
just write another album, which by the way is why I have no idea how Taylor Swift writes so many albums and puts them out. I have a lot of thoughts about that because I'm like, fuck you writing about? They're one on top of the other. How are you doing that?
mm,
What do you like? Are you writing about what happened on tour? Like, I guess. I don't know.
mm,
That seems really sus to me. I'm like, I don't get it. As a musician, I'm like, wow, there's only so many experiences you have that you can draw from, honestly, and write a song about it. So I don't get that. And then I see people like Adele who need to take 3 years off and live in order to write. And that sounds more correct to me. That sounds more real, you know?
mm. What advice would you give people on the internet who create things about being healthy in relation to fame?
Um, hmm, I think to just have it as a question at all. And how am I doing? How am I really doing? Is this is this attention load bearing? Because if it is, there needs to be some other types of scaffolding around you. I have just last week, I think I started to feel like it was engulfing or like I was too dependent on replies or likes or something. And so I went and had conversations with everyone else that I know for a few hours. And I
Mm,
talked to people like this and I texted with people and I um, got my cup filled in a different way. So I guess the advice is have lots of places where you're getting your cup filled, not
mm,
just Twitter, not just the internet, because it will turn on you really quick. And then it's like an addict not having a dealer anymore all of a sudden. So it can't it just can't be that. And I think you have to pay attention to when you feel two things, when you feel like you're being sucked energetically into it and don't let it. Just stop it. Just stop it. Like throw the phone across the room. Whatever needs to happen, don't let it do that to you. And then I think I said to someone recently, identify what need is being met or what needs are being met and come up with a lot of other ways to get them met. Because anyone I've talked to who's taken a break, including myself, gets to this point during the break of just like, wow, I never need to go back to that. And that doesn't mean you don't, but it's good to know that you don't need it. I mean, I went off social for a year, all of 2022. No apps. I didn't even lurk. I was not there. Um, and my life was great. I had way less writing inspiration.
mm,
I also had way less anxiety. So it's like, I don't know. I think a part of me died that year because I wasn't interacting with the muse and the people and, putting ideas out there and getting feedback on ideas and finding silly videos to laugh at. There were these, but I was able, because I took such a long break, I was really able to identify what do I miss? Why? What do I think is really great about social media? And it's very few things is the thing. There's really specific things like comedy and like-minded individuals who are going to have intelligent conversations with you. Um, likes are only good for letting you know about resonance. That's it. It doesn't mean anything about even that the thing you wrote was particularly good. It just resonated. The idea resonated. Okay, great. That's great data. Let's mine that idea a bit more. It helps give focus on things. At the same time, I think when I said two things earlier, I think what I was actually thinking as the second is that you can't start creating so as to get likes. So sometimes something I do gets a lot of attention and I don't want to do it ever again. Fuck off. But people want me, oh, you should do that. That one thing you did once. I really liked that. Can you do that again? And nothing in my body says yes. And I'm like, sorry, no, I can't. I
mhm,
can't. I can't create for people. Even I feel bad about this sometimes, but even song requests, someone's like, oh, I really think you could sing this song. And I'm like, I don't know the song. When I listen to it, nothing happens in my body. To learn it and then perform it is a huge emotional undertaking. And people
mhm,
don't get that. They're like, oh, whatever, just sing the song. Like, I don't just sing songs. They have to. they have to feel like I'm talking about something real for myself. And or there has to be some connection with the music to me. Otherwise I'm not people don't realize how long it takes to do stuff either. So they're like, "I'll just do it." We're talking 3 hours of my life that you're asking, but they don't understand that that's what they're asking. And they're just being nice and saying, "Oh, your voice would complement this song so well." I can agree with you, and I'm not going to take requests. I'm not going to do it.
Mhm. Mm. When you do these deep dives into a specific creator or person that you admire and learn about how they relate to fame or other aspects of their life, like, what's that like for you? Like, what's your process? What are you interested in? What are you curious about? What are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, the most recent one I talked to you about already,
Hmm.
but I'm happy to talk about it again because it's really my best reference point was Mr. Beast, because dude's just growing so exponentially. And as someone who grew exponentially, not like that, but I had a microcosm of it. So I I think I started looking into him because I was inspired, and then I became concerned about him. Like, he's the person I know. So I have this like really intense parasocial relationship with Jimmy Donaldson. Uh, but the thing I wanted to do the most, I saw him on Joe Rogan, and then my immediate thing was I need to find every interview he's done and just watch him. And I'll listen, but I preferred to sit and actually watch him the same way I watch singers and I look at their throat and I'm,
That's why this
whatever.
is a video podcast first and
Yeah,
foremost.
yeah. I need to do more video on my podcast, by the way. You're inspiring me. I stopped doing it just because of the amount of time it takes to get through. And I used to be a video producer, so I have a lot of like
Oh yeah, I
hangups
just
around.
don't edit or produce.
Well, neither do I, but there's
Yeah.
still like the putting together and the uploading, all of it, like
Mm,
there's muscle memory, there's a lot of history and baggage there for me.
mm,
So but I do like it. Also, my people weren't watching, they were all listening. I had like two people who would watch. So not getting that feedback of, yeah, we like do it that way made me just go, ah, fuck it, I'm not gonna put all the work into it because no one's even watching it. Um, but that was also a cope because I just don't want to do it. It's too much
mm,
work and I'm doing too many things. Anyway, um, my process with it was really just kind of to become lost in it, and not much of a process. It was very chaotic. It's usually ADHD hyperfixation mania, not like a I will now study. I don't study. It's like I can't think about anything else. This is all I can do.
mm,
Um, so that's what I did. And it was helpful because my husband was also interested, not as interested as I was, but we were both YouTubers. So, and we were both fascinated by him. So I could share stuff with him. And of course, my daughter is a huge fan and is the reason I found out about him. So she was happy to sit and watch stuff with me. It all lined up with my life where we could all do it together. If I happened to be watching one of the podcasts and they both came in and it's on the TV, they would just sit down and watch with me. Uh, but I'm over here like writing essays about him in my head.
mm,
Like I had to create a spreadsheet of every podcast I've watched just to keep track. And I calculated that it was 20 hours. And then I continued to watch other podcasts. So I've watched at least 20 hours of this dude talking. And I felt from just the one interview that he was being very genuine. And I part of my job as a coach, and especially in the coach and leadership training program that I lead, is to be able to just witness someone and know a lot of like be able to sense a lot of stuff about their being and how they're showing up. And yeah, I just wanted to see more because I felt like I was learning a lot of like there's a lot of meta communication or information in there if you're just watching. And yeah, I was just ravenous for it. So that's my process is I get really obsessive.
mm, mm. What do you think obsessed you about Mr. Beast?
Um, his a lot of things. His drive and ambition, his clarity around what he wants, which I think is mostly stubbornness. And I've looked at his star sign and it all makes sense.
Hmm.
Like you look at his astrological information, it's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. But from such a young age to just be like, all I ever want to do with the rest of my life is YouTube, and I want to be the best on YouTube by making the absolute best videos, and it's just fun for me, and I just want to have fun. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I mean, I have made my living supporting people and loving their lives, largely at first as a reaction to how much my mom hated what she did for a living, and and this like aversion to hearing people say they hate their job, because I heard that from her for so many years that I just was like, I don't want anyone to feel that way. And it transformed more into like, everyone has the capability to have a joyful life. So why not? And so when I come across this dude who just decides he wants to have fun for a living and then actually does it and breaks every record and is really enjoying it, I'm fascinated. And I got really fascinated by who his mom is and did a lot of research on her and found a random podcast with like hardly any views on it that she did a long time ago. And yeah, I'm like, who's this kid's mom and how did that all work out? And I just wanted to know all the dynamics and sort of compare and contrast with my experience. And I kept finding things that were similar. And and I think it was that there's so, oh yeah, there's I don't meet a lot of people in my day-to-day life who can relate with what I've done and gone through. Parts of it, but not the fame part. I mean, it's rare, especially to be like an early adopter of YouTube and to start doing something before it's what everyone does. People brought me out to lunches. Big influential people asked me, will you come to brunch with me and I can pick your brain about this YouTube thing back in the day, which was so surreal to me because I'm just a kid fucking around and having fun, and I'm getting asked for my opinion and my advice by these super successful famous people. And it's like, oh, okay. Who's had that experience?
Hmm.
Not many people. I've met very few. And when I do find somebody in real life, it's like incredible, but usually it's by researching and looking into how people got where they are online. So I think it's like trying to find a friend almost.
Hmm.
I'm gonna fix my blinds now because they're blinding me.
Hmm.
They're not blinding me. They need to do that. Okay, better. The sun is blinding.
Um, you use this word parasocial, and I'm curious if you could say more about that and how you relate to what's parasocial and what's not, and what's healthy and what's not.
Mm. Parasocial to me is just having a relationship with someone who doesn't know you exist,
Hmm.
feeling like you know them, feeling like you know stuff about them. Lots of people have parasocial relationships with me. It's very jarring to meet them. Uh, and when I have met someone in person that I've had that kind of relationship with, I have to like put that over here like it was a different thing and just be with the person in front of me. And I think I'm really good at that. Like I think whenever I meet Mr. Beast, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I'll just be with the human that's in front of me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think they're interesting for, it's almost like a muse, or it can be. Just like a philosopher can be someone that you feel you have this relationship with. Alan Watts, a lot of people that we know, maybe even us, have this relationship with Alan Watts, and we don't know him. Actually, the movie Her, he actually doesn't. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but I'm pretty sure he actually talks to Alan Watts, like an AI
Hmm.
version of Alan Watts. Um, so these constructs of who people are can be really helpful as long as you stay on the side of understanding that that's not real and you don't really know them, and you can be cool. Because I met people at a YouTube conference or two who had such a strong parasocial relationship with me that they hyperventilated when they met me. Like couldn't actually be with me in any way because they were too taken up by the idea of me,
Hmm.
which I think happens just in relationships, just people when you have a crush or you build someone up in your head to be something, and it's very objectifying. of that person and you say, I love them so much. And it's like, you love an idea, not them.
Mm,
Like you love the idea. The idea is great. I love the idea of Mr. Beast. I have no idea really, apart from my intuiting and the research I've done. I don't know what he's like to be friends with for real. I can make some good assumptions. I think I would be maybe 85% correct
mm,
at this point because of the amount of time I've spent watching the dude talk. Uh, but I feel like whenever I see someone going off online about a celebrity and like, oh, Ariana Grande, uh, cheated or like she had this relationship with a dude that she's in Wicked with, and everyone was like, she's this, she's that, I know this about her, this is how she is. And it's like I think stuff in private, but I ain't about to go online and pretend I fucking know anything about anybody. So I see people doing that and I'm just like, this is so useless. This is just like we're just processing our own shit through people, and I don't like putting it out there publicly because they look, they Google themselves, they read shit. This is not benign. We're putting something out in the world and someone is hearing it. So anytime I talk about people, I'm like, I don't really
mm,
know. I have to caveat it, and I definitely don't do the gossip rumor mill thing because I'm like, I don't know, it just feels like bad juju. And what the fuck do any of us actually know?
mhm. That's some queen shit right there.
Oh, thanks.
Um, I want to ask about like we talked recently about like can you know someone better than they know themselves and
Hmm.
whether that's possible. And I'm just struck again by that theme. And I heard you say both, I don't really know, like I don't know, and you have these very like refined thoughts about someone. You're like, oh, this is like 85% likely. And I'm just curious about how you relate to that tension between having thoughts or perspectives or intuitions or opinions about someone and what's going on for them. And like this, I hear also this deep conviction, like, I don't really know. I haven't even met them. Like and there, it's not now. I'm not interacting with them now. Um, how do you think about that tension?
Well, part of the reason that I said, yeah, you asked me, is there anyone in your life who knows you better than you know yourself? And I said, my husband, my coach, and a few of my closest friends.
Hmm.
And what I mean when I say that is they see my blind spots, and everybody's got blind spots, and they're ever changing. So I might get something pointed out to me, and now I know that. And yet, something else, I feel like when you chop off the head of something that was lurking, it grows three heads in its place. And so we're always changing. So someone could know me in a moment better than I know myself, but then I can change and a whole bunch of stuff happens and they're not getting the updates, I'm getting the updates. So from that perspective, nobody can ever know you, including you. Like, it's just, who are you? I don't know, I change all the time. I'm not who I was an hour ago, before having this conversation. So on this very nuanced level, I don't think that you can ever know anything fully. Um, and I think part of the reason I say I think I'm 85% right is because I've spent the last 12 years studying humans and talking to them, and I know about the percentage of my hit rate of being correct. And I don't even lead with it. I lead with curiosity.
Hmm.
And I think I just sort of keep this mental scorecard in a way of how often I'm right, or how often the way I saw it ends up being real or resonant for the person, and then sometimes I'm completely wrong. So I've been humbled many times about, oh wow, I thought that person was like this and they're actually not. It's usually I thought they were an asshole and they're not.
Ah, yes.
I've
Well
pretty much come
seen.
to the conclusion that everyone who seems like an asshole is just scared and lonely and sad and angry and needs love. And okay, so it might not mean that they're in my life, but everybody, every single person leaving a nasty comment online, all that stuff. And not that they don't affect me, they affect me. And it takes me a while before getting to the point of feeling and being able to send love their way. I was just thinking this the other day because I had a comment. I had put up an AMA about limerence. I said I've I've been experiencing limerence since preschool AMA, and it did some numbers. And one of the randos that commented said, "Stop using this stupid fucking word. It's not even a real thing." She's right. It's something someone came up with to describe an experience that no one had described before with that word. So fair. But she was like, that's not even a real thing. You're just obsessive. I have nothing to ask you. Go outside. And I'm like, all right. I mean, I was just like blocked, get out of here. And that was what, 2 or 3 weeks ago, probably that happened. But yesterday, the comment flew back into my head. And do you ever write a response to someone in your head? So my response that I wish I said right away would have been something just conceding the point that they're making, first of all, and then saying your comment activated me, and it sounds like mine activated you. So maybe we both need a walk. I'm gonna go outside. I hope you do too. Hard hands. Like,
Oh, that's
I
so
would love,
sweet.
like, I want to get there faster, like 3 weeks it used to be months or years, and now it's like, oh, 3 weeks. I would love to close that gap.
That's such a sweet reply, and I really love what you said about assholes and their behavior and where that's coming from. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And I love the way you put it. And I want more people to see that way. I'm like,
It's
so I'm
hard
so
though.
glad you said it so clearly.
I've just been experiencing assholes online longer than most people. That's all. Like, but if you went back into my Tumblr from 2010, you will find me having flame wars with people
Mm,
all the time. So I'm not like, oh, I'm so much better than everybody because I don't get, no, I've just done it already. I did it. It's like when you get older and then you watch what kids are doing, you're like, ah, ha, ha, I don't play in mud anymore because you
hmm.
get dirty. But kids are enjoying the mud, so cool, let them enjoy their mud. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. That I had to go through that. I had to have that experience, so neat. And I just hope from where I'm at of not having mud that I can say something useful that will maybe have you close your gap faster and not spend so much time there, because I've found that it's not that useful. And it was useful to have the experience, but it wasn't useful to hang out there, and certainly not to make it your personality and your life.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Huh. Mm. Tell me about blind spots. How do you see what blind spots are? Like, how do you understand them? And what's your experience relating to them in yourself and also as a coach witnessing other people?
Mm. I mean, it's just like stuff you can't stuff you can't see, and it's characterized by a repeated experience of someone gives you a piece of feedback and your immediate response is, no, I don't see that. I don't get it. Like, literally, people will say, I don't see that, because it's here. And if you can't see it, I can't force you to see it. Um, and most people have a number of times that they can hear something before they start to get curious about it. And I always tell coaches that. I'm like, look, the client, whatever you're intuiting or experiencing about them, and you reflect, they don't need to agree or disagree with you. Neither one. Both of those things are useless. When I have clients who disagree with everything and fight with me, they're not going to get much. When I have clients who agree with everything I say, they're also not going to get much, because they're not getting it from them. They're getting it from me, and they're putting me on a pedestal. Michelle gets me. Michelle knows everything. No, I don't. I'm literally just interacting with you and letting you know what's showing up in my space. That's just data. It's not the truth. It's why if I was with Jimmy, Mr. Beast, nothing I think about him is the truth. It's just all of my intuitive hits and different things. And maybe some of it would resonate, or he would be like, actually, 5 people have said that to me before. Oh, let's look at that, you know, and have the person discover what they can see about it. And I've had clients for many, many years in a row. My longest running client, 7.5 years together, talking every week. So I watched the progression of his level of awareness about himself. I learned things about him as it went. I mean, that's should be obvious, right? It's like just an obvious statement, but it's so cool to watch someone learn how to understand themselves better and the things that don't change, the things that kind of become more integrated into who they are rather than a thing they do. Um, I had this one client who got on with me one day and he goes, Michelle, I'm a fucking pussy. And I was like, yay. Because I got it, I got and what he meant by that was just like letting a lot of people walk all over him, all of these negative connotations of the word pussy. But yeah, he just got it all of a sudden. He's like, I need to stick up for myself. Like I really can't let this keep happening to me. It's just been forever. And it had been like 4 years we've been working together. I suppose I could have directly said that to him, but it's not really the kind of coach I am. Some coaches are very high flame, super direct. I prefer to just love people exactly where they are as an access point to them seeing those things and be able to just give them some kind of reflection around what I'm noticing. Uh, but yeah, sometimes it's really gratifying when someone sees something that's been so obvious to you and you need to wait for them to see it themselves a lot of the time. Otherwise, it just hits different when they see it themselves than when someone else tells it to them.
Hmm. I'm going to ask the same question from two angles, and they're really two separate questions, but they're also the same question, which is how do you smell your own blind spots, and how do you detect other people's blind spots as a coach?
Okay. How do I smell my own? Um,
Or one, like you being
yeah,
you,
yeah.
but also one, me asking, etc., the person listening.
Things that offend me typically are something in my blind spot.
Mm,
Anytime I'm like, I don't like that idea, or you're wrong. I want to, no, that's not true. Any strong reaction like that, there's usually, it's not that what they're saying is correct. It's just that there's something in there that my survival mechanism does not want me to know about because then I might grow and things
hmm
might be better than they are.
Uh-huh.
And survival mechanism is designed to have things stay the same, don't die, just level. Let's just stay right where we are. Let's stay the same exact way that we are. That's what accomplishment coaching calls that part of you. Other people call it your lizard brain or whatever. There's a lot of your gremlin,
Mm,
your shadow. So things that offend me, feedback I keep hearing, stuff that annoys me about other people, things I can't be with in other people. It's just unintegrated shadow or survival mechanism. Uh, but yeah, I think across the board, offense or defense in general is a really good marker of something in your blind spot. So whether it's like my mother-in-law did something and I'm like, ugh, like we're the same. So hmm, maybe that's something, and maybe she's doing it at a level that I don't do it, but I still do it. So there, and it's something I don't want to look at it. Mm-mm. Literal blinds. It's like a wailing blind spot. It's
hmm
over here. No, 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 no. I don't want to see. And with other people, I usually know based on their reactions and what they say they've heard multiple times and or a body feeling. Um, it's like I have a repeated experience with the person. There's a feeling I get when we communicate that keeps happening over and over again, and they don't seem aware of it. They just move on, or I'm feeling a certain way and they don't seem tuned into how I'm feeling, or they rush right past it, or something like that. Patterns over time, it's usually not something I can tell right away. Like I don't have enough information yet. So I have to,
mm
which is why my coaching contracts tend to be quite long because I had a guy like, I just want to do 3 months. And I was like, not with me. I can't do shit for you in 3 months. Like maybe something will I'll feel a little better because we were working together, but we're not going to do very deep work together if I don't get to know you long term.
mm. What does one do When someone notices something in their own blind spot, how do you work with that skillfully?
Um, don't rush to fix it
Hmm.
because it's not wrong. It just is. Ironically, what most people do is more of the same, or
Hmm.
they'll flip to the other side, which is, it's like if you think about it like a box, they discover one wall and then they're like, I'll just go to this wall. This is the
Hmm.
wall I'm doing now. This is like, I'll give you the example. I say yes all the time. So now I'm going to say no to everything.
Hmm. Yes.
That could be a cool practice for a short period of time just to see what comes up for you, but it's not the answer. It's a it's a town along the way on the journey, but it's not your final destination. Final destination would be reincarnation. Like,
Hmm.
and then there's more. I'm with you on that, by the way. So I don't even, I'll say to people, you're not done till you're dead. And even then.
You only live once unless you don't.
Yeah, right.
Elude.
I mean, what else? How else do you explain some people being born with this like infinite amount of wisdom, and then other people kind of being like, derp, derp. I bump into glass and I think it's a doorway. Like, there's just so many different kinds of people in the world. There's no way. My daughter is the wisest old woman. She's 7.5, but when she was a baby, one of my intuitive friends texted me and said, Amelia's bored. She says she used to be this celestial like omnipotent star being, and now she's just a fucking baby and she's so bored and she's so mad she can't do stuff for herself. And I was kind of like, stop telling me about my baby. you know
Hmm.
but as she's gotten older, it's so real.
Hmm.
It's so real. She really wants to be able to have agency in her life, and she does.
Hmm.
And she's just, everyone who meets her is like, what's she going to, she's like 40. She like a 40-year-old, basically. Your daughter's a 40-year-old. I'm like, seems like it.
Seems like it. Yep. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
I can't remember what you even asked me at this point, but who cares?
Oh, I think you answered it. It's about what to do when you notice a blind spot. So,
Oh yeah, I did. Neat.
mm. I want to zoom out and ask about your experience of coaching. Can you tell me, like, kind of the trajectory of your coaching journey?
Hmm. So I was let's see. Right when my mom got sick, I had just quit a desk job that I had for about 6 or 7 months at a post-production house. It was going under. So I was sick of taking calls from bill collectors at the front desk, and they missed my paycheck twice, which was only $400. So like, wow, yeah, I'm out. And somebody I met on Tumblr got me a job doing short documentaries about people with interesting jobs. And I was going to get paid $500 for every single one I finish. There were like 15 and he couldn't do all of them. So he said, as many as you can do. And I'm like, oh, every single one I finish, I get $500. Yes, I'm quitting this fucking job. I'm doing this. I'll find clients. I don't know. I have no idea how I'm going to pay rent. I'll figure it out. And then my mom died, or my mom got cancer and was like, I can't pay your student loans anymore. And I was like, fuck, because she was, paying the monthly, like it was like $500 a month. So on top of New York City rent and food, that too. And my mom's dying, a lot of stuff all at once. Um, but one of the documentaries was about this woman, Marie Forleo. Have you heard of her?
I've heard of her, but feel free to share about her.
Yeah, yeah. She's so the documentary was about her, and it was about her um becoming a coach back in 99 and being a bartender, and eventually uh she worked on Wall Street. She was a Nike dance athlete, just all these really cool, interesting things while she was trying to build a coaching business. And she worked for Glamour magazine. She had such an interesting history, and I'm literally making a mini documentary about the woman, so I'm learning all this stuff about her. And I had never heard the term life coach before. And I was at the hospital with my mom with my laptop sitting next to her in bed, um, editing a documentary. And I showed my mom some of the raw footage of Marie. And my mom just turns to me and is like, she's special. You need to meet her. I was like, okay, calm down. But she's like a Jersey girl and all this. So there's all these like connections. And so I went on Twitter when and Marie back then had, I don't know, 14,000 followers. I don't know how many she has now, but it's definitely hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Um, And I tweeted at her a few times and she didn't respond. Just like I put the documentary up and whatever. And then on a different day, I had that intuitive, today is a day to share something. So I shared it. And then I put up a separate post asking my followers to please retweet it. Maybe 3 of them did, but that was enough.
Mm.
And then she
Mhm.
saw it and she replied, wait, a woman edited my documentary, because she was all about empowering women. Still is, but like that was her main focus back then. And she had not heard of a woman video editor. And in fact, we were incredibly rare back then. Now we're way more ubiquitous. It's still a man's world, really,
Mm.
but there's far more women doing that now. I was very much a unicorn back then though. So she was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. She sent me a DM and she's like, here's my email. I'm about to go on a trip to Italy, but I want to know, I want you to like send me your life story basically in an email. It's like, okay.
Mhm.
I haven't looked for that email, but I probably could.
Mm.
It was surely from an old account, but I just wrote all that was going on for me at the time and linked to my YouTube channels. And she was so impressed. I had multiple YouTube channels and I sent her some of my music videos in particular. And she was like, I want to do music videos. Can you help
Mm.
me do music videos? So she took me out to lunch and we ended up having lunch for like 3 hours and we hugged at the end. She just, I remember we were standing on the street in New York and she just goes, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something.
Mm.
And then I pitched her some ideas and she was like, no, that's not it. Yeah, I could get into it, but um, I helped her figure out what it was going to be. We started her YouTube channel, Marie TV. Um, and started off with me just like, I didn't even have a tripod. I'm just holding a camera and filming her on her couch. That video is still on her YouTube channel.
Mm.
Like you have to go all the way back. Um, and eventually worked up to having a set that she purchased and a whole team of people and all this stuff. But the point of me bringing up Marie is that it got me into that world of personal development, of the idea that you could be a coach, the idea that you could be someone who helps people for a living, uh, and I was also at all of her retreats doing testimonial videos with the people that she was working with and just hearing about their lives firsthand and understanding these are real people and I'm hanging out with them and I'm not just getting their on camera version of it, but I'm really seeing it. And that helped me so much to wrap my brain around. I told you earlier, my mom always said there's never enough money. And here are these women who, a few of them were broke and they managed to get together 20 grand to do a year-long thing with Marie.
Mm.
I remember thinking, I want to have a story like that. That sounds great. I need to do that so I can tell that story. I was trying to reverse engineer a story I could tell.
Mm.
Uh, and in fact, I did because my coach training program is about that much. So like I had no money when I signed up for it, but I had this reference point of these women who had done that. And so I believed it possible. And so it was, which is why anytime people are like, oh, there's not enough money, I'm like, yes, and I mean, I
Mm.
did not grow up with money, but I've created a lot of it over the years. And it certainly takes something, but it's mostly how you're looking at it. Uh and I just lived that. So I was researching coach training the day my mom went into hospice. So this is some October, November 2011. And I was Googling life coach training programs and just getting all of this really banal nonsense and being like, how the fuck do you know what training to do? Or I said out loud, I wish someone would just tell me what to do. I shit you not. At that moment, a Gmail notification comes across my screen that I have an email from someone named Ali Rodway. Don't know who that is. Click on it. And it's this letter or this email from this woman who she's like, okay, so first of all, I've been watching Grace and Michelle for years and God, you're funny. And, here, I love this and I love that. And then she said, I saw that you started a second channel and you're talking about life. And it struck me that you would make an innate coach. Have you ever thought about becoming a life coach? And I was like, reply.
Mm.
Hello, Ali Rodway. This is crazy. but I was literally researching life coach training when you sent this email. Also, just to go deep right away, my mom just went into hospice. My whole family is out of their fucking minds, and I feel like I need to do something different with my life. And here you are.
Mm,
And then she just responded, "The universe is not an idiot. All right, shall we get on the phone?" And I remember I sent her my phone number, and then I like ran around screaming because the idea of someone calling me that I didn't know was so terrifying to me at the time.
mm,
Um, but I got on the phone with her, and she asked me a bunch of stuff about my life, and I was crying within minutes, and I was not a crier.
mm,
I am now, but I was not a crier. And then she gave me some exercise we were doing. She asked me to finish it and she'd call me back the next day. The next day she called me back. We went over it. It all just, everything just seemed, everything we were talking about felt like it was unlocking all this stuff that I had been really stuck in. And so I was like, how do I work with you? And I think her rate was like $650 a month or something like that. And so I looked in my bank account and I had about $10 more than that.
mm,
And so I picked up the phone and I was like, "Do you take debit cards?" Empty my bank account, hired her, proceeded to make more money that month than I had all year because I just went balls to the wall, calling old clients. Hey, do you need anything? Booking shoots, getting payments in advance, booking stuff for next year. Just, I don't know, I made like 3 grand that month. And that wasn't typical for me because I would just sort of rest on my laurels. I'd make like a big check for Marie and then chill.
mm,
Um, and, uh, and then I went and did a behind the scenes observation of the coach training program that she went through. And I was so moved. Specifically, um, people were talking about real things. They were actually talking about it. And it was about money. It just happened to be the money weekend. And I'm like, oh my God, I grew up in like a conspiracy of silence in my family where we didn't actually talk about the problems and what's going on. And here's people just being open and transparent. I need to be in this room. I have to do this program. And I signed up that day, bounced my payment. And they had to call me and be like, your payment bounced. So I'm like, okay. And I figured it out and I did a lot of stuff to be able to make that initial payment. And then as soon as I started the coach training, um, my Marie helped me a bit and my coach helped me write an ebook and I sold it. I pre-sold it and I said before I wrote it, I sold it.
mm.
And I said, the first 100 people that buy this get a free coaching session with me. And I woke up to 110 sales at $15 a pop. And 100 prospects or 100. And I gave everybody who bought the book got a free coaching session if they wanted it. And of course,
Mm,
not everyone wants it. So there's that. But I had all these prospects. I had the money to be able to pay for my first month. And in the first week, I mean, I did my first 2 days of coach training on Saturday and Sunday, like 9 to 5. I also gave up all my video editing clients the Friday before, gave them to my assistant editor. He still works with Marie. Um, on the Monday after my coach training, I had 3 sample coaching sessions with people, and one of them hired me. The next day, I had another 3. One of them hired me. I got hired every single day that week. The next week, I got hired 2 more times. So now I have 7 people paying me $500 or $600 a month to work with me for 4-month contracts. And then I needed to stop for a little while getting new clients because I need to like work with the people I'm with. But the coach training program is very intense and very intensive, and you have a lot of support. So thank God, because my mentor coach heard from me every day. I mean, she was on the phone with me every fucking day, and she
mm,
was so excited because she was, she'd only been a coach for like 3 years, and to watch me getting all those clients right away was thrilling to her. So she was happy to give me extra time and whatever. And my teammates who were also going through the year-long program, which included my husband, by the
mm,
way, he got
mm,
trained that year with me.
mm,
Everyone was so supportive, and the people who were hiring me had been following my journey of losing my mom and my YouTube career for 7 years, and already felt a deep trust to be able to jump in and do something like that. So, um, yeah, I've been a full-time coach ever since then.
mm, mm. And I want to ask about the most recent part where you said I love this. I love this. I'm going to paraphrase from memory here, but you were like, you were on the, I think you were on the phone with a friend, and your friend just said, "You sound so bored, Michelle." And that was part of how you decided to have this new offering about roller coasters. And I would love to hear about that. Like, what are the questions? Like, well, I'll just reflect. Like, first off, there's multiple things I'm interested in here, so I feel like it would be good to like stir those into the conversation. One is for me, fun is just such a big signal, and if I love that you were like, I'm fucking like that you reflected this and you're like, great, I am bored and I need to make a change, and I just love that for you. I'm like, hell yeah, queen. Like, and then that launched like a new thing, and um I'm ever since you started talking about this, I'm like, oh shit, I am definitely terrified of roller coasters. And oh no, I don't want to do this. So I'm like, okay, I should absolutely do this. So you and I are going on a roller coaster in some shape or form at some point. We've talked about
Soon,
this.
this
Yeah,
year,
soon.
it's
It's coming
happening.
up. Uh, so we have to talk about that at some point. But yeah, why don't we start with the roller coaster part? Because I read your essay and I just loved it so much. You described like faking it until you make it, that like for many years you're like, I love roller coasters. I will definitely go on them. And everyone believing you, or a lot of people believing you, and you actually hating them. And apparently I don't know. Yeah. What is your experience of them now? Let's start there. Let's start
Oh
there.
God, they're like a spa day. When that everyone talks about the going up on the roller coaster, how that's the worst part. I literally will just go like this, and there's no fear in my body. I'm just relaxed as fuck. I
Mm,
can't wait. I get a little swoop always at the very top, and I go, like
mm,
you have to you have to just notice the clenching and release it, because it's sort of like, have you heard that drunk drivers don't get hurt
mm.
because they're loose?
Huh. No, I never heard that.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like the person they hit usually gets hurt or dies, but they'll survive because they're drunk and they don't clench
Mm,
when the crash happens. Incredibly difficult to do if you're not under the influence of something.
mm,
Though I don't recommend riding roller coasters drunk though, because the roller coaster is the drug you don't need. I rode one high recently. Bad, 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 bad.
mm,
-5 out of 10. Terrible. Don't do it. Um, because the roller coaster is the drug. So yeah, right now they are just fun, and I'll marathon a coaster and just stay on it. And if the park's kind of empty, which Six Flags Great Adventure tends to be on a weekday,
mm,
um, it's just like, how many times do I want to ride this thing? Usually 4. And then I'm like, not even like I don't want to ride this again. It's like I want to get to some of the other ones before I have to go. So
mm,
4 tends to be where I tap out, but I'll switch seats. I just want to feel what it's like in every car, and the front, the back, the second to the back, the very middle. What's it like?
wow.
And then just kind of categorize on this coaster. The second to the back is the best one because there's no wheel on the car, so it doesn't bump at this one part, and it's better because there's actually like ways to ride roller coasters that
Huh.
make them more enjoyable.
Wow.
And I think some people have a bad experience and then they're like, that's a bad roller coaster. And it's
Yeah.
not, it's just you rode it wrong, or you didn't know how to hold your body, or whatever, you got in the wrong car. Happens a lot. And the
Mm,
roller coaster enthusiasts they'll actually, there's like on Reddit, they will tell you, when you go on this one, make sure you get in the 7th car, or make sure you're in the first one for this one. Don't do the back row.
mm,
Because there's all this physics and math around why, and the shape of the car and the type of track. And it's so nerdy. It's great.
mm,
I don't get too deeply into that. I'm not a math person. So they get into the physics and I'm like, give me the bottom line answer of
mm,
what's gonna come from all this math explanation, because I don't really care. Um, so yeah, now they're just fun. But I always wanted to like them, I think is the thing. I wanted to be someone who likes them. So we're back to the trying to reverse engineer a story. It's like, I would like to be a person who enjoys this. And it took immersion therapy for that to be a thing, because you have to experience it. You have to experience it as enjoyable in order to get into it. Kind of like hard liquor.
mm,
It's kind of gross. But then you have some that's mixed a particular way or on a at a particular time in life and it feels a way in your body and then you're like, huh, I actually like that. And it's not, yeah, it's just not always universal. Also, there's people who can't ride roller coasters for a variety of reasons, and I feel so bad. I'm just like, uh, you can't be too tall, you can't be too big, you can't be there's certain different illnesses where doctors will tell you you can't ride roller coasters for
Mm,
whatever reason. Um, but for anyone who can, and you don't get motion sick. I have no wisdom about overcoming motion sickness. I have no idea. I've never had it. So
mm,
I've always been able to. Maybe that's another reason why I wanted to be a person who rides them because I don't get nauseous, I don't get car sick. Um, but yeah, the conversation I had with my friend when he said I was bored, man, I was really in it at that time. Just everything that worked at the beginning of my coaching career, I had just been repeating and doing variations of for years. But I've been a coach for a long time, man. Like I've done about 3,000 hours of one-on-one paid work. So that doesn't include all the free work I've done over the years or any of the facilitations I've done. I'm talking contracted. I'm sitting here with you for an hour, 3,000 hours at
mm,
this point. So after a while, you start to be like, is there something else? Is this,
mhm,
do I just do this forever? Because I could, but I need to be more stimulated than that. And uh, I've always thought about in-person experiences with people, and you get so much more about who someone is when you spend casual time with them. And where would I love to say I take clients? A theme park, because who the fuck
mm,
else is doing that?
mhm,
Nobody. Zip lining, hikes. Okay, that's happening now. Cool. I'm not into any of that. So what am I into? This.
mm,
That's about how I decided to do it.
mhm,
Just the uniqueness factor alone for the ease of marketing it and the like kind of shock factor, the shock value of it, that pulls me into it because I hate marketing. So marketing has to be like easy as fuck.
mm,
Otherwise, I'm not doing it.
totally. What do you think the process was for you going from actually disliking roller coasters to actually loving them?
Hmm. Well, there was that first experience I wrote about where my boyfriend noticed that I was hanging on tight and shutting my eyes, and he was like, "You can't do that."
Hmm.
And I agreed. I just was scared.
Hmm.
But then I did it, and I realized that I was missing something really profound. And I experienced the profound thing that I had been missing. And so then I went, oh,
Hmm.
shit. Well, I would like to experience that profound thing more. I am still scared, but I would like to. So I did more, and I was still wary. And then life happened, and I didn't have a lot of occasion to go to theme parks. I actually went with Marie Forleo.
Mm,
She loves roller coasters. So we got together a whole bunch of entrepreneurs and went to Great Adventure together. I had no idea who they all were at the time. And now I'm like, oh my God,
mm,
who I was at the theme park with back then. I had no fucking clue who they were. Um, and yeah, she was like charging around the park trying to get on the front of everything. And I think that also I was like, that's fun. I would like to be as inspired as she is.
mm,
And anytime that we connect now, she's like, I gotta get to Great Adventure with you. I'm like, I know, come on.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I think she and her she had a fervor about them that I now have. And I think seeing that, I was like, shit, wouldn't it be cool to come back here with people like this? Because she did a day at the park with entrepreneurs. I'm like, I could do that. And I had the idea back then, but that was before I was a coach. And so it's always been back here. And when my friend said, you sound bored, I was like, maybe it's time to do that thing. So I announced it. I put up a landing page and then I started talking about it a lot. I started joking about it on Twitter,
mhm,
as we do. And then I went to the park by myself. I bought a season pass and I live not that far from there. And I just started going on the ones that scared me the most. There's one there that I had never been on before that's technically, if you Google what's the scariest roller coaster in the world, it'll come up because it has the stats on it. It's the highest one in the US. It's the highest one in the world, 456 feet in the air. So I went on that, got over that fear, got to feel what that feels like. And yeah, mostly, like I said, I just immersed myself in it to the point where I desensitized to the fear around it. And it became more like, I know what this is going to feel like. I've been on it already. And I know, since Great Adventure in New Jersey happens to have some of the best roller coasters in the country, I'm like, well, what else out there is really going to get me? There's one in Japan that is going to fuck me up when I go on it. And I don't even want to go on it, but I have to.
Mm-hmm.
I have to.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Egenica for anyone who's watching that actually knows. It's crazy. And I think it hurts. That's the thing. Some of them hurt physically to ride, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how you ride them. So that's why I'm not looking forward to it, because I prefer to have fun on the
Mm-hmm.
roller coaster and to feel good and to have this like ecstasy flowing through you. Um, Adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely
Mm-hmm.
a motivating factor to have me get over my fear, because when you feel some pure fucking adrenaline, the only other time I can think of right now that I felt that kind of adrenaline was giving birth without meds. I couldn't sleep for 2 days after, and I hadn't slept for days before that. So it just so much adrenaline. It's like being
Uh-huh.
on speed.
Uh-huh. Huh. So how do you help your clients go through that? Like, uh, yeah, your clients.
Talking about it
Uh-huh.
beforehand, I think that normalizing the body sensations and not having that be a problem. Like, yeah, I still feel scared. I still get like moments where I'm like, will I or won't I raise my hands in the air?
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, just to go back to your last question, one of the ways that I think my final I've done it was that I went on this one roller coaster called Nitro at Great Adventure, and I put my arms up while we were on the way up, and I never touched the restraints the entire ride.
Wow.
I was just like, this is what I'm doing this time. It was probably the seventh time I had gone on it in the season. And I was like, will not touch a restraint the whole time. And making that decision before getting on the coaster was everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Because when you do that will I or won't I thing, there's a constant push pull. Will I surrender? Will I control? Will I surrender? Will I control?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we do that in life
Mm-hmm.
also. So I think it's just a cool parallel, a physical parallel to notice. But yeah, I warm them up before we can go on kiddie coasters if you want. They're also, they'll give you the same kind of feelings. It's just not as sustained and not quite as scary. Uh, Also, sometimes you have to go on one at the start of the day and then revisit it later and let go later, but decide on the first one, you don't have to let go. We'll
Mm-hmm.
just ride it. Let's just get used to it, because I don't want to just scare people. I want them to feel like they have agency
Mm-hmm.
on a machine that is taking you. And I like to say, um, people people don't know how to ride a roller coaster. They get taken by the roller coaster rather than riding it. And if you think about it like a bull,
Mm-hmm.
you can ride a bull and not fall off, or it can take you for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just different mindsets. It's just a different way of relating to yourself and the situation that you're in, and your fear and your desire to control it, and getting that there are some things you can make some decisions beforehand that have you feel like you have agency. Here's what we're doing. Here's my intention. Oh, that's the other thing. Setting really clear intentions before you get on about how you want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And what's it for? What are we taking this ride for? Is there something you want to let go of? Is there something you want to confront on this ride? What are you going to be thinking about? Because what do most people think about when they go on a roller coaster? Oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck, I don't want to die. Oh, fuck, oh, fuck. Like, that's okay. That's the experience you're going to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Like, and you can, and people they need to do the first like 5 rides like that sometimes, but it doesn't mean you can't then go back in with more intention, which also is the way it goes for people with entrepreneurship, with everything. We get into it, we're like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And then the more experience you have of that, the more you can make some clear choices and create your experience rather than having it happen to you.
Hmm. Hmm. What kinds of effects do you see this having on the folks you've been working with?
Mostly letting go of shit
Hmm.
that they didn't think they could let go of.
Mm.
Pairing the mental exercise of releasing something with physically having that, like
Mm.
literally surrender, I think it does something. I don't know for sure neurologically what it does, but I think it does something.
Mm.
I think it makes you trust yourself more. And it gives you a physical experience to draw from and knowing you don't die. Anyone listening to this who's been really terrified of something, maybe driving is a good one. Um, but then you do it a bunch and then you're like, oh, I can handle this.
Hmm.
And so my goal with this, and I don't have a lot of case studies yet. This 2024 is my year of developing a lot of case studies. You will be one
Hmm.
if you wish.
I
Um,
wish. Let's do it.
okay, good. Um, my theory is that if you can experience it physically, you can draw on that physical experience in your life and take action from that awareness and create different life experiences than the ones you've had before and be able to surrender more in life and allow and enjoy and find. And I'm still working to find it in myself, to find the bliss of surrender, not just the fear. So I kind of relate to my level of butterflies in my belly when I go on as parallel to how it goes for me in life with surrender, where
Mm.
I still, for instance, right now, things are going really well for me. And I have a cold sore, which I only get when I'm maximally stressed. And there's nothing in my life to stress me out. Everything's going well. That's what I'm stressed out about.
Mm.
When does it go away? Shouldn't I be worried? I'm
Mm.
usually worried. Why am I not worried? What am I not noticing? There's just like a paranoia happening because things are going well.
Mm.
So I have a limited capacity for bliss. I think we all do.
Hmm.
And I would like to expand it.
Hmm.
So I think roller coasters can help with that too. It's just expanding into feeling joy
Mm.
and like terror and then joy with each other.
Hmm.
I'm very fascinated by that.
Mm. It's a beautiful thing you're doing for yourself and your clients, and I look forward to slash dread experiencing it.
Yay. Well,
Yeah.
you told me you were scared, and I was like, oh yay. I haven't taken anyone yet who's that scared, um, or who is willing to tell me
Hmm.
they were that scared.
Mm.
So I think I said to you, "Oh, I know exactly what we'll do. We'll start on kiddie coasters. It'll be kind of funny,
Mm.
but we could talk about the sensations that happen in this very small little dips and things that happen. Um there's a few. One of them is in the dark. That would be probably the scary. Though actually, two of them are in the dark, but one of them is scarier in the dark. Uh, but it's great because it's themed around Batman
Mm.
and the Joker. And so it's one of those wild mouse ones that does these twists and turns. So you kind of like what's scary is that you're whipping around corners. And there's these tunnels in it with black light on and these fluorescent ha 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 ha. So
Mm.
whenever I go through the tunnel, I maniacally laugh
Mm.
as a practice. Oh, Tasha, we're gonna
Wow.
laugh so much. We're going
Wow.
to
I love that for us. Let's go.
laughing on roller coasters is the shit. It's
Mm.
everything. When you
Mm.
can get past the screaming and all you're doing is laughing because
Mm.
it's like you're being tossed in the air by
Mm.
someone. Oh, it's just the best.
Mm. Yeah, it's like as soon as I heard about this, I was like, oh, okay, it's just clear. I have this tweet: the universe makes a certain sound when it knocks on your door. Learn to listen. I was like, okay, this has the sound, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm terrified. Well, I don't know, terrified would be too strong, but scared of roller coasters, have had bad experiences. Time to let go of that, and it's really clear that this is a surrender practice. And I'm not great at surrendering. Like I've done my best to learn how and to trust and let go, but I can always use help surrendering more. It's like, oh, this is a very obvious thing that will help me to surrender and how to put it. yeah, if I'm scared, then there's juice there to be mined. And um, it's very obvious to me that this would be almost like a fundamental upgrade. It's like it's just so low level of like and really like people talk about meditation as like preparation for death. And I'm not that great at meditation. So it's like this is preparation for death. Like just really experiencing intense physical, emotional, mental sensations and like learning how to allow and relax and notice that it's actually okay. And even if it's terrible, it's like also okay. And I know that's what I'm signing up for, and then I have to actually do it. So we'll see how it goes. But it's also nice because like something that's really convenient about a practice like that is, God, there were times where I wished meditation was like this, where you just it can be, but I found it hard to do this. It's like you literally just strap yourself into the roller coaster, and then it goes, and you're not gonna like jump out or like you can't get out. So it's like you're in. Once you're in, you're
Yeah.
in, and you like pre-commit, and that's so useful. That's so useful. There's no wobbling or like, oh no, actually maybe not. Like you just can't. And I used to like pray that meditation could be like that for me, and I never quite got that so far. I think I'll get there, but
I guess
anyway.
sitting with other people in an organized way where you might be a little embarrassed to stand up and leave or something like that is sort of similar.
Mm,
I started meditating at a Buddhist center in New York with a ton of other people,
mm,
and my ego kept me there
mm-hmm,
because I didn't want to embarrass myself by getting up and being oh my God, I would the voices in my head, the just this is so fucking stupid. Who the fuck are all these people? Just how nasty it would get when I was there. But I needed it. I needed the accountability of other people around me, or I wouldn't have stuck through it. And I certainly wouldn't have been ready to give birth
mm,
through hypnobirthing, which is just meditation.
mm,
Um, by the time that came around, like I would not have been ready for it at all. But thank
totally.
God I read Eat, Pray, Love because
Mm,
that people rag on that book, but I'm like, dude, that I couldn't afford to go around the country, but I did start going to meditation classes because of that book, and good thing.
mm,
And changed my life.
mm,
So, but yeah, you're right. When you get on that roller coaster,
mm-hmm.
you'll fight. You'll, there's plenty of people as they're going up. They're like, no, never mind. Never mind. I changed my mind. I don't want to be on here. But there's nothing you can do about it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm,
you get face to face with that thing, and you're just there with you. Here you are with yourself. And so if you choose for that to be an experience that builds awareness, it will.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In this moment, it's really obvious too that like all those things that I'm holding on to and trying to protect or avoid or whatever are also just constantly influencing everything I do. And that
Yeah.
like everything I do, if I let go of those, will get better. And I'm like, oh, I almost wish we could go today. I'm like, let's go today. Like I'm ready to like, let's go. I mean, I wish we could have gone months ago. Like, let's go. I need to get that shit out of my system. Like, it's not helping me. It's not serving me. And yes, I am talking a big talk right now, but that's part of my MO is like just like commit and be like, I know I'm doing
Well,
this,
no, me
and
too. It
yeah,
works.
it works.
Well, we actually could go sooner than when Great Adventure opens because there is a park in North Jersey right by New York. And it's indoor.
Mm,
And I haven't actually been there. It's a Nickelodeon park,
mm.
and like we could potentially find time to go there. Um, I have so much stupid work, but maybe on a Friday.
Me
I don't know.
too. We'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
we're both so busy, but the thing I want to say, there is the steepest incline in the world is there.
Mm.
Because New Jersey had to build a roller coaster that's 5 degrees steeper than the one in Japan, but it's a clone of the one in Japan, just so we could say we have the steepest. And when I say
Wow.
steep, I don't even mean this. I mean it goes like that. It goes down and like that.
Michelle, you're not
And
supposed to tell me that. You're just supposed to take me on and be
I
like, oh, this one will be fun.
haven't been on it yet.
Okay, yeah.
And some people I watched go on it on YouTube who are roller coaster enthusiasts were like, wow, even for me, that was a lot. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily start you there, but there are other roller
Yeah.
coasters at that park too.
Huh.
So
Huh.
I don't like driving up there unless I have a really good reason, but you would be a really good reason.
Mm. That's sweet. Mm. Well, we've covered a lot of topics, and there's more
Yes.
I would love to ask, so I'm sure we'll talk again in various
Yeah.
forms. But is there anything that you'd like to go deeper into or talk more about?
I want to know whatever you want to talk about.
Hmm. Well, I'm curious about marriage. I've loved learning about your marriage from afar, and oh man, I'm so like if I'm watching a movie like of my life, I'm just like, what is gonna happen with this guy and his love life? His love life is whack. Um, and like part of me would love to get married and other things, but anyway, I'm like, I want to hear about what that's been like for Michelle and yeah, almost like what advice you'd give someone about marriage. I mean, I'm not getting married today, but I'm like, there's worlds where I get married, and what do you got to pass on for me, friend?
Let's see. I think it's the ultimate training ground for a human, apart from parenting, which typically marriage comes first. So my husband's a mirror. He's just a mirror. And I think that for many years we've both not related to it that way as cleanly as we could, which is also why when people are like, I've been this with this person for 3 years already and we're still having X problem. And I'm like,
Hmm.
like, I got news for your friend.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know that it's universal for everybody because my husband and I both come with a lot of fucking baggage. We've both been through some shit in our lives. And I won't get into all the specifics, but uh we married each other's survival mechanisms. We were like, here's somebody who I can really uh cut my teeth on, basically. And if we hadn't done all of the work that we did, we would not be able to be together. There's no way. We're too volatile together. But because we've both done so much healing and growth, uh, we're keeping up with each other. And I think I think there's a lot of bad advice out there. And there's just kind of this overarching don't get trapped in a marriage stuff that or evaluate whether this person is exactly right for you. It's like this is not a head-based conversation. It's like, can you choose all of their worst qualities? Maybe not like it, but could you choose it every single day and love them anyway? I mean, I've done some hurtful shit to my husband and he has forgiven me. And he's done some hurtful shit to me and I have forgiven him. And I think the level of willingness to forgive has to be equal. That's got, and if it's not equal, it needs to even out over time. And it was not always equal for us either. So I'm not saying it was equal from day one. I think we have evened it out now to where we could even go, wow, that thing you did last week and this thing I did actually match in terms of how shitty they were. And so we're helping each other to love ourselves more by not hating each other for our humanity. I mean, there's parts of him that he hates and there's parts of me that I hate, but I don't hate that part of him. I used to, mainly his anger, just to name something. Like he'll have an outburst and he'll say some shit to me. And happened like 3 weeks ago. And that was maybe the first time that I think I even posted a message about this. I stayed completely grounded in myself and just I listened. There's some of the things he said were insulting, nitpicky, airing of bitterness that I didn't know he felt. Just I kind of felt it, but didn't necessarily know. And I physically came closer and sat down. I asked questions. I validated him without necessarily agreeing with what he was saying. I validated his experience. Like I understand that. And I imagine you feel like this too. And, just so, and I reminded him that we're on the same team and we have the same goal. So I was like, I want it to change too. I'm with you. I want to find out how we can make it change. And then he was fine. Then he was fine. Like we didn't even fix any of it. All I did was say I'm on your team, and then he was fine. And then we went about our day, and we debriefed it later as we tend to. And inside of that conversation, he apologized for and took back every nasty thing that he said in the conversation. He's like, I didn't even mean it. I'm so sorry I said those words. I didn't mean them. Like I really didn't mean it. And I believe him, you know. And they still come up and I'm like, did he mean it? Is that a thing I need to think? I can't tell. I don't know. So we're still always figuring it out, but it's like I just relate to him as someone who has gold for me always. And he's on my team. And often the issue I see in people's relationships or in mine is when suddenly something's going awry and we just start to act like we're not on the same team. And that's the bullshit. And that's like complaining to everyone else but him about him. Why would I do that if we're on the same team? He's not my adversary. He's not my opponent. We have the same goal. Having a kid helps because, I mean, it's like, well, get over your bullshit. There's a human here that needs you two to work. And whether you're in a relationship or not, you need to work, whether you're in a romantic relationship or not. We both recognize that there may come a time when it doesn't make sense for us to be married anymore. And we've openly put that on the table a bunch in the time that we've been together. Like, do we want to get divorced? Do we want to stay together? And obviously, we've just continually chosen to stay together. But I think that's also a bit is you have to be willing to consider it, not to threaten with it, not to ultimatum with it, but to discuss it together. Do we still make sense? Do we want to, if we stay together, what needs to change? Because things need to change all the time. You don't just meet someone and then it works. That's ridiculous. Well, I have a plot of land in my backyard and I put seeds in it. So now I should just have fruit all and vegetables all the time. I just expect it. I'm not going to water it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to spend time on it. I just expect fruit at all times. And if I'm not getting fruit, this must be a bad garden. I need to go find a different one. Like that mentality. Also, you can apply that to business, not just this, but I relate to it as we have a garden and we need to tend to it. It's going to sometimes it's going to have more fruit and veg than others. And that doesn't mean it's bad. Maybe the weather was off. There's so much to this metaphor. It always works whenever I go into it, but it really is like that. And right now we just happen to be having we just had a big harvest and everything's very plentiful right now.
Mm.
And I recognize that at some point it might feel something. And maybe then we need more sunlight. We need more water. What does that look like? Oh, we need to till the soil again. We need to get different seeds. The ones we were getting weren't working anymore. Whatever it might be, we just need to figure out what's missing, not what's wrong.
Hmm. I love that metaphor, and it's very helpful advice that you passed on.
Yay.
Uh, I'm curious about how you understand or make sense of how you have changed over the years or developed or grown, almost from like a developmental psychology perspective. Like,
Yeah.
what is Michelle capable of now, or who is she now that she wasn't, a decade ago?
There's so many mentors who would love to overhear this right now because they
Mm,
could tell you really clearly. But I know I grew up. I just grew up and not in a way that is boring. And actually, it's more colorful and I'm more capable. The way, little kids want to be a grown up already.
mm,
I just want to, my daughter says, like, I want to be able to drive everywhere and I want my own house. That's how I felt as a kid too. I just want agency. I want to be able to do things for myself. But if you gave a kid the ability to do whatever they want, they would do stuff like eat McDonald's 3 times a day.
mm,
And that wouldn't necessarily be good for them. So I think I went through that phase for a while of being like, fuck yeah, I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want. I can make dumb decisions all day long and be irresponsible. Whatever. I'm an adult.
mm.
And now it's more like I'm just lately, especially getting a lot more real about what I'm capable of, both in terms of personal power, uh, things I have agency over that I would love to pretend I don't, just so I could be at the effect of them. Um, but also, I don't know, just cutting a lot of bullshit now, immaturity. I'm cutting out a lot of things that I was pretending weren't immature, and they were,
Mm,
definitely. But I kind of needed to wild out and have it, not just get really rigid at some point and act like an adult, act mature. Like, no, I needed to, and this is why my husband's so great, because he's seen me through many periods of immaturity and vice versa, and loved me through it after he stopped, wagging a finger at me like he's gonna be my parent. Um, but we're more partners. So I think like I'm my own partner now. I'm like able to validate my choices in a way that I didn't used to. I'm more humble. Um, not like I'm free of all ego defense or whatever, but like I think I've grown in humbleness, and I think I'm just embracing woman, like grown woman, rather than, that's the big transformation over the last 10 or 12 years, was little girl to woman. And this is as ways of being,
hmm
how I hold myself, how I think of myself. There's ways I used to talk about myself that I don't now and never would.
mm,
Doubt, second guessing, belittling myself. Don't do it anymore.
hmm
And not through some sheer force of will. It just does not occur to me to do. It's like, that would not actually be in keeping with who I am. So I'm not going to talk like that anymore.
hmm
Uh, Happens slowly over time through other people reflecting it to me. But I just know myself better now, and I'm more able to withstand challenges from the world because I have my own back, and I have a cool support posse of people who also have my back.
mm,
And it's not weighted. Like, it's not like they love me more than I love myself. It's gotten to an even place, or like I'm even more here for me than others, but I also have all the cool like help and support, and I allow support. I
mm,
didn't used to.
mm,
I was very proud of my lone wolfness. You could find a lot of evidence of that on my YouTube channel.
uh, mm, mm. I love hearing all of that. It's nice
Mm.
to, yeah, it's nice to meet you at this chapter of your life as well. I'm sure we would have got along earlier, but yeah, it's nice to meet you at this chapter of your life and this chapter of mine. Um,
Ditto.
was there anything else you'd like to talk more about?
Now I'm sick of hearing myself.
Mm. Well, I'm not, but we'll talk more. So, um,
It's more a physical tiredness from speaking than
mm,
actually being sick of it.
yeah, very good. Very good. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for speaking with me and telling me about yourself and sharing your heart. And um, I've learned so much in this conversation. It's been a privilege to hear about, and I look forward to learning more in time. So thank you, Michelle.
Well, thanks. Thanks for today, and ever since that I met you, always having great questions.
Mm.
And part of the reason I always am happy to answer a question, I always laugh because you'll be like, these questions are optional. You don't have to answer them. And I'm like, bro, I'm gonna answer them. I'm always gonna answer. I don't think I could not if
uh,
someone asked me a question, unless
wow.
unless you ask it to me and I'm like, I got nothing,
Uh-huh.
which I
Oh,
might
I
say
wouldn't
that to
ask
you.
questions you have nothing on.
I know. So that's
Um,
why whenever you're like, I can't, you don't have to, I'm like, I'm going to, because it
uh,
helps me understand myself better. So thank you for always asking questions that do that.
I think you're going to be increasing that comment is increasing the rate at which I'll be asking you questions. So I look forward to that for
Yay.
both of us.
Me too.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, friend. Mm.